Hey everybody, my name is Andrew Davison. You're watching Conversations in Pop Culture, and yes, I am hard to kill. And before I introduce my guest, I do want to remind everyone that this episode is brought to you by my friends over at Pocket Jack Comics, who have books like The House of the Golden Princess and White Lily. You can find their books at pocketjackcomics.com. And Preston is a good friend of mine, so please go check out his books. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. They are beautifully drawn, beautifully colored, beautifully illustrated, and Palace has some very interesting things in it. And if you have a mind like mine, you will appreciate them. But it's a great story. It's D&D oriented. A lot of cool stuff's in there, and you can put whatever D&D you want in there. There's like 3 or 4 that come to my head, but I am not going to tell you which one it is, or it might be all of them. I don't know. But enough about that, because I have with me comic creator Nick Caponi. So welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I kind of seen your name around for the last 2 years. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people that obviously you are associated with. You've done a lot of cool stuff, and you got a lot of stuff going on. You got Purity issue 3, The Hunt
Mhm.
part 2, which is obviously the third part in The Hunt. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. It's a bad joke. I'm full of
Yeah.
bad jokes today, everybody. I'm sorry. No, obviously it is the second issue or second part to the first part of The Hunt, which is issue
Yep.
2. But obviously, enough of my jokes here before I run myself out of my Friday night comedy show tomorrow. Which is not a comedy show; it's a tragedy written by Shakespeare. But anyhow, again, I'm gonna stop. I promise. I'm absolutely gonna stop here. But all jokes aside, obviously you have that on Kickstarter. But before
Mhm.
we get into that whole thing, why don't you introduce who you are? Because you've been in
Sure.
comics for a while now. I think
Yeah.
7, 8 years. I think.
About this is for me is year 8, so almost a full decade. Which people watching are probably like, he's such a baby. I've been in this industry for 30+ years. Well, I'm already hitting at least 10 of those years almost. But yeah. So my name's Nick Caponi. I am a creator. I am the president of Sky Maiden Studios, my own publishing company. And I'm also a comic book colorist. And you might have seen my work primarily in Dynamite. In recent years, I've done stuff with Archie. I've done a Betty and Veronica special. I've worked with IDW for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I've worked with Scout Comics. I've worked with a lot of indie companies as well. Another most notable one, Mythos Comics Group with Justin and Amy Hunt, with their book Ninja Witch. I'm the main colorist for that. And then I recently, just actually today, I got my comps for, I colored the new Dynamite one shot for Wacky Races. If you love those Hanna-Barbera cartoons, Dynamite published a book and I colored. It's a 40-pager. It's about Penelope Pitstop, and it was a really fun book. So those are in shops right now. But on top of that, I published my own books, and I've worked with Sonoma Publishing. I co-created Reign of Ages, which is, if you like Dungeons and Dragons, it's a dark fantasy black and white book, kind of more on the ElfQuest side of comics. But I currently have a live campaign for my book Purity #3. It's our third issue of, I call it like a modern age love letter to the 90s bad girl genre. So if you love comics like Witchblade, Evangeline, Jim Balance Tarot, Witch of the Black Rose, and of course the most notable one, as me and Andrew were talking about backstage, Lady Death. So if you love those books, Purity is definitely a book where I would consider checking out.
Yeah, so let's dive into the campaign. So obviously,
Mhm.
this is issue 3
Mhm.
of Purity. And
Mhm.
so before we get into issue 3 and kind of what's going on, and we're going to talk a little vague about it because I don't want to ruin too much for it about what's going on, but we're going to get a little bit into the weeds of it. But what is the basic concept of Purity? Because people come into comics in weird ways. People miss books, things just pass them by. And
Yeah.
there's people who know Purity who are going to see this interview. There's people who don't know Purity. So what's the basic concept
The
that
basic con the
I think?
basic concept is, I jokingly tell people it's just a spoof of Little Nicky, Adam Sandler's Little Nicky, but with a sexy character. So basically, Margaret Adams is our main protagonist who turns into Purity. She was a Puritan that was wrongfully accused of witchcraft back in the 1600s by her own sister, Mary Adams, who is an actual witch, who also made a deal with the devil for immortality. So basically, by swapping her soul with the soul of a virgin, aka her sister, she was able to roam the mortal world forever. And so that's what happened. And Margaret goes to the underworld and is enslaved for 500 years. And then one day she just had it. She realized that she's too pure of a soul down there. Her colleagues agree. And she's like, she finds out that her sister was the real reason why she's down there. So she wanted to seek revenge in the most campy way ever by running through the gates of hell and just going back into the mortal world, not knowing that that freezes the gates of hell in the process. But she lands back into Salem, but it's a different Salem. It's Salem 2096, so we're well into the future, and which leads into the hunt. She's on the hunt for her sister, who we find out in issue 2 that is alive, and while not realizing, Satan, our main antagonist, sent 2 bounty hunters to the mortal world to hunt Purity. So Purity is on the hunt while not realizing she's also being hunted.
So let's get into this a little bit, because obviously there's a lot of shit going on, for lack of a better word here. Lots going on. So
Yeah.
obviously we have Purity, obviously escaping pretty much out of hell. I think
Yeah.
is a good way to put it.
Mhm.
In the most simplest ways, how I interpret it at the very least. And then that kind of fucks up Satan and what
Yep.
she wants to do, and her powers are
Yeah.
not gone, but
There's when they're gonna start like weakening the longer Purity remains up there, because by the gates freezing, no new souls can come in to fuel Satan's power. So they're trying to get her as quickly as possible so Satan can continue.
Because this is where this gets interesting, right? Because obviously we have Purity trying to find her sister and to deal with her sister, and I guess I don't know exactly what she wants to do to her sister, but either kill her, bring her back to hell, bring her back to the underworld, make the
Yeah.
exchange, get her soul back, all that, whatever it is. And then obviously by freezing the gates of hell, now you got Satan in there. And so now we have a very complicated dynamic going on, because we have one person going after, obviously their sister, trying to figure out that track and that trail that is now being picked up 500 years later. And
Yeah.
then we also have now this whole situation where somebody's also being hunted, and then we're learning a lot of shit about these people and what they want and what exactly is going on and
Yeah.
politics. But it's also the other thing that you didn't mention that's also probably in play is that, well, there's probably Earth and Salem and some other stuff might have their own ideas once they start figuring out what's going on with this, because, well, people are political.
Yeah. Oh,
And
absolutely. So a lot of things come to play, and I kind of went into the story and the way I describe this book to people, it's your textbook style bad girl book, but I joke not to rag on any other bad girl creators, but it has substance. It's not just like the tits and ass kind of book. Like there's a lot of character development and a lot of different moving parts in the story. So like what you mentioned, like all these different scenarios are kind of hitting to the point where it's going to boil over and there's going to be a solution, whether if it's like a giant war amongst heaven and hell, or Purity finds her sister and like seeks revenge and in a way where she could redeem herself into heaven. So there's a lot of different avenues that we're going to be approaching. But
let's actually talk about this, because there's nothing wrong with having a tits and ass crazy story of just. I just had Tom Hutchinson on, and we were speaking about.
Tom's a great guy.
Tom's awesome. We were speaking about Critter and Chloe, and now he was doing a tribute to Dirty Pair. and
Yeah.
how the book is just nonsense fun, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of
Like,
fun.
and Tom said it himself, so he's not going to mind me saying it. Where it's just like an 8-10 page story that's just nonsense fun. That's fun to read, and it's a good story. There's nothing wrong with those, right?
Yeah, no, no.
And I understand it's not tits and ass Critter and Chloe. That's not what that is. But
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with a story like that where it's just cool. We got 20 pages of stupid shit happening, and
Yeah.
there's a middle, beginning, end, right? But I also feel at this point, and I'm a wrestling fan, like I need something of a substance where I need a reason why we're doing something now, because I don't think you showing me a titty works anymore. I mean, I hate to say it that way. And I know it's funny, right? I know this is going to be taken out of context. This is the perfect image and moment to clip from me is you're saying showing me a titty's not working. I understand somebody's going to clip that out of this. But I feel like you need something now more than that, especially in Kickstarter, because there's so much content out there that it's just 10 years ago, straight nudity would have worked. But now you need something more. So what is that like? Because I think it's a real complicated issue and situation to some degree, because it's kind of like, how do you figure out how to balance that whole thing?
How do I balance, like, just kind of essentially just like standing out among the rest in a world where sometimes that I
guess what I'm asking is that figuring out the right amount of nudity, the right amount of bad girl components, but also having something of substance. Like I'm watching a show right now that's an anime that's extremely thought provoking, but it's also extremely violent. And it's balancing it really well because you get the gore and the extreme violence, but it's not just pointless violence, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a really well balanced show, and it's great because it's like, okay, we have point to the violence, but it's also matching with the thought behind it. Because when you enter a bad girl art book, I think it's a complicated dynamic to balance. Is that we have sexy characters, we have adult things going on, but we have nudity, but also like, how do you get the thought provoking stuff, and so that it all doesn't overpower? Because if you just have topless girls walking around, I mean, that's all they're doing. It's hard to maybe have a thought provoking message.
So I think like 2 books in particular, and I promise I'm not going to say Lady Death, but 2 books in particular.
You can. It's perfectly fine.
All right. So I've been doing a lot of, so I've been reading bad girl books since I was early teens, which probably the time where I probably shouldn't have read those books. But the one thing that I noticed, like especially, I was reading a lot of She by Billy Tucci, and I was reading Jim Balance Tarot, which is The Black Rose. And I was studying closely beyond the TNA. She really didn't have a lot of TNA, but there was something that I really saw, even with Lady Death, where there's a level of, you take the sexiness as a component, but you realize the character is actually very empowering. So like I wanted to take that into purity, and I wanted to talk about, and like even when she had a lot of issues in the story, not physically in the story, but like in the world. And like even Lady Death was essentially, she was damned to the underworld, and in a different way. And she realized her father was, Lucifer and she had to live with that, but she wanted to, do something about it. And I feel like, again, you're going into a territory where you want to have the fun books with the fun like volleyball TNA books, fine, but then like there are books with darker themes, and like you kind of question that, you kind of ask yourself throughout the story, like that's a component.
I'll ask it. I'll throw this out there. So I had a voice actor, David Wald, on. And David Wald is openly gay. And he's a big proponent about this. And I asked him, saying, obviously, in the last 30 years with anime, it's become more true to itself. Is the only politically correct way I could say this. There used to be, Sailor Moon's a good example. They were cousins. Now we know they're a couple, everybody. And if you didn't know that, now you do.
Yeah.
But what he was explaining to me is that what he said is that if an anime that is quote unquote gay themed, or it's about two girls or guys liking each other, and or there's two gay characters, and you could take the gayness out of it and the story still makes sense, then
Yeah.
it's a good story. So
Yes.
I don't know if that's how you feel about your book as far as Bad Girl Art, is that if you took the tits and ass out of this book, or out of Lady Death, or out
Yeah.
of She, or out of Faust is not a good example. Faust is the worst example here.
Yeah.
If you haven't read Faust, oh, you're in for something that's very special, for lack of a better word. You have to you can't take the violence out of Faust. But
Yeah.
I'll give you a good example of a great book that you could take the erotica out of. Lost Girls by Alan Moore. If you
Yes.
took the erotica out of Lost Girls, the book would be great.
Yeah.
Regardless, in it, the erotica in that book makes it great. But like, do you feel that that's how you feel about Purity? Is that if you
Yeah.
took that out and then you replaced it maybe just with some more battle scenes or
Mhm.
something tamer, that it would
Yeah.
still stand on its own? Because that's my biggest problem with Bad Girl Arts right now, and in stories in general, is that it's almost like a plot device showing a titty.
Yeah, so like that's like the thing too, where like even in like issues one of Purity, like issue one of Purity, for example, um, her outfit was ripped, and I that was the reason. It wasn't a reason to like I didn't want to be like, oh, all of a sudden this like very serious scene, she just pops a boob out of nowhere, and that's the reason. No, like she literally got her outfit just ripped, and there's always more purpose. And I think my editor Von Coleman, he's been helping my writing, like just going over my stuff, and he always it like evokes the question whenever I write something now. You treat it like as if you're trying to explain to a toddler and be like, but why? Why are they doing this? And you describe it, and then you're like, all right, but why that? So like even with Purity, I kind of formulate it where it actually drawing the book, the bad girl end of it was actually secondary. So I went in with this plot first. And especially too, this was 15 years in the making. So I went in with I wanted a female character, but the sex appeal really didn't hit until maybe like a few years back when I really started considering publishing her fully and like yeah in like more of a proper way. But I'd say like her story will still stand alone. And I think too, coming from like I'm a big history nerd when it comes to the Salem witch trials. Like it's a book where if you love, you know, heaven and hell characters, if you love learning about the Salem witch trials and like the aftermath of it, not realize it, like realizing that it was such a wild time for early civilization of America, or of like the new of like the newer age Americans. And like it was yeah, like I definitely built the foundation on just the story first, and then added the bad girl qualities to like kind of spruce it up even a little bit. Like one I don't want to use the word risk, but one move I did do that people were like questioned initially, but then they learned to like it, was I made Satan a redhead female, like a very seductive character. And there was reason behind that. Like and she actually became I feel like there's a cult following for this character. But I was doing like a lot of research on different iterations of Satan and different versions of Satan. And I kind of like the idea of Satan being like a fallen angel and like kind of like God's most beautiful creation next to himself. And when Satan, whenever like even like with her design, her her horns aren't horns. It's actually like a disc, so it's like a broken halo. So it's supposed to be kind of like semi like a halo, but also
This is just
visually,
so interesting now. See, this is interesting, right? Because
yeah,
there also gets a point where we all know the devil, we all know
yeah.
angels, we all know
The big man in red, the big like. Yeah.
We all know stuff like that, and then there's a bunch of other stuff as well that's been reiterated, and then there's other stuff that's occurred. I mean, obviously, there's been parodies of Satan. I
Yeah.
mean, South Park does a great job of that.
Yeah.
I love South Park Bigger, Longer, Uncut. Oh my
Yeah.
god, brilliant, brilliant movie. For so many reasons and all the wrong ones. But what is that like? Because that's another thing too that I think is interesting, right? When you start talking about this, because Ed Davis has a book that obviously deals with kind of like a war and fallen angels and stuff like that and collecting souls. I think JD Rosario has a book that deals with hell and some other stuff. And then a bunch of people have had this, right?
Yeah.
This is the oldest story that's ever been told. There's always wars between heaven and hell, and earth is the
Yeah.
battlefield.
Mhm.
Tom Hutchinson, Penny for Your Soul, deals with some of this too. But what is that like? Because again, you need to have something that separates you, right?
Yeah.
So like putting a position of the devil, right? Where for instance, like I think JD Rosario did something where like the devil is just like a common guy running hell. And it's hilarious because it's funny, right? But
Yeah.
then your version of this is that you have this redhead and it's like she's got a broken halo, because that's the other thing too that I think is fascinating, is that you need to have a differentiating factor
Yeah.
and a similar interpretation of what it's supposed to be so that we all get it, but also something that's different. Because you just give me Satan and a guy with devil horns with a freaking
Yeah.
pitchfork trident. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that,
Yeah.
but you're
Well, I
giving me
think, the way I approached it too, and like again, like I've had one person I'll never forget comment like, just like someone like I was on a podcast and someone reviewed Purity, and someone commented like, "Oh, this is a good series, but just be mindful, Satan is a woman," and I'm like, and I laughed about that because growing up Roman Catholic, not just Catholic, very like strict Catholic, we learned that and I was doing a lot of research on it, like Satan, the fact that Satan can take any form. So that's why I never looked at it as just the big man in red. Like Satan could be a shadow, Satan could be a baby, Satan could be, a big boobed redheaded chick. So that's why I wanted to approach it differently, because and even that too, I didn't want to make the typical like red skinned little devil horned girl with black hair. Like I wanted something different. I wanted something, again, to match the fallen angel vibe. I wanted something seductive about her. I wanted something almost like goddess like, but a goddess like with a touch of chaos. And that's kind of how I approached saying.
So you wanted Monday Night Raw. That's exactly what you wanted. Is Monday
Yeah,
Night Raw. It's controlled chaos.
yeah, controlled chaos, which yeah, I'd say controlled chaos is like the best version, like the best way to describe that. And I will say though, out of the whole roster of Purity characters, and believe me, more is coming, but Satan was definitely the most difficult character to write and design. Like I think I spent a good 2 to 3 months designing Satan, because I was like, yeah, because I was trying to find different ways to approach it. But even when it comes to writing the character, I don't know if anyone out there who has a character with a god complex, but writing a character with a god complex is so difficult, because they have less and less consequences for their actions. So you're trying to find a way where it's like not overkill. It's like a nice balance. And I kind of did that in the
So
Purity universe.
let's talk about this, because this is fascinating, right?
Mhm.
You've read a bunch of comics. I've read a bunch of comics, right? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
How many? And we don't have to name names, but we have friends who have written poor books, haven't, don't we? Right?
Mhm.
And you don't know how to tell your friend that his book's a problem, and it's always a tough one when you're like, I get the concept was fine, you just didn't do it good on this one, and then your friend writes another book that's great, right? I'm sure you've had that situation,
Oh
right?
yeah. Mhm.
So the point that I'm going here, and the reason why I'm bringing the question up this way, is that what is this like? Because you have a Bible for your book. And I
Yeah.
think it's a big problem in comics when a creator goes and says, I'm going to go build a big world. Or even if you're only going to build 4 issues, whatever it is, you need to have a relative rule book, a relative Bible, a relative how Satan is going to react. If someone says, "Hi, Satan, would you like your coffee?" Like,
Yeah.
you need to have an idea how they're going to respond to that.
Yeah.
And that takes time to
Yeah.
figure out. And I'm not saying you have to know like 900 responses to how they're going to do it, but like, what is that like? Because I think that's a big problem. And it seems like you built a Bible, or at least you have a matrix to your book to some degree. And I think
Yeah.
a lot
So
of people
obviously,
don't do
so
that.
with Satan, I do, like I said, I look at other points of reference. Obviously, the Bible, like I would revert back to certain biblical stories, um, but even just different interpretations of like almost like cherry pick certain qualities out of other renditions of other uh of how other people portrayed the character. Like for example, like I really enjoyed uh what was that Al Pacino movie where he's the devil? It was with Keanu Reeves. What's it called?
Wick? I'm sorry, that was too easy.
No,
That was
hold on. Let's see. Keanu Al
one of the
Pacino.
reason Al Pacino. I don't know this one.
It's oh yeah, so it's the Devil's Advocate. So it was like from 1997. So basically, basically Al Pacino was the devil, and it took Keanu Reeves to realize the very end of the movie. He's like, you're the devil," and he's like, "I go by many names," and like that, there was something more of the comic. So like that's like the comical side I liked in Satan, and like it was a ride of a movie, but then I also loved Elizabeth Hurley in Bedazzled. That was more of the campy Satan that I liked.
well, but I guess where I'm going with this is that it's interesting because
Yeah.
what I think, and I've spoken to a lot of people like
Yeah.
Tyrone Jackson, and he has a Bible for all of his characters,
Yeah.
and he has an idea how they're going to go because that's what I think is interesting, right? Is that you have an idea of how
Yeah.
Satan is going to react.
Yeah.
So if Satan and purity wind up meeting each other
Yeah.
in some capacity somewhere in issue 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Yeah.
or however long this goes. And they probably will meet
Yeah.
each other at some point down the line. You have an idea because you've developed and understand your characters. And that's what I think is interesting. I think it's a real issue in comics and storytelling because I hate to say this, and I'm going to sound so pessimistic, but 50% of the books I pick up, they have not developed their characters and they
Yeah.
really don't understand their characters.
So one thing I learned this when I was a student at the Joe Kubert School when we took our writing classes. This might sound like an extra step, but what helped me kind of develop the personality of Satan, like I said, if not reverting to like referencing off of other material like The Devil's Advocate and Bedazzled, or even the movie Devil, when they were in the elevator, I used to write journal entries, like very small little things, nothing too thought provoking. But you were right, like even with Purity, like I wrote as if I was Purity, writing how I felt. And I think that helped me get a better feel of the character a little more. Like, and even in regards to Satan, what I mentioned earlier, where it was like having a character with a God complex is very difficult to navigate through because you have to find a way of like, they could be friends with someone and then they could like, snap their fingers and they're like vanished, like just because. Like, and the more I like go into like exploring Satan's character, I'm starting to do less of like, oh, she did that just because she could. And I think that was really helpful in regards of the making that Bible of how each character is portrayed. Like even too, when I even hire artists to draw Satan on like covers, there's still like a little criteria I give them. I'm like, look, Satan is campy and beautiful and sexy, but also again, it's Satan. She's the most sinister person on the world in the universe. So, you could take her beauty, but also balance it with a good amount of chaos and malice. So it's like, and I've seen people interpret her in two different kinds of light, in more of a sexy light and more of like a grotesque light. So it was very interesting. But like, I do kind of establish that. But even in her story, and I can't give too much away because it's in further issues we're going to see, but there is a reason why she can't leave the underworld, and that's the biggest crutch to her whole story that like I said, I can't give away right away. But I have this all planned out where I know every move this character is taking and how she's going to approach it.
So I'm not going to push too hard on this, but I do want to back out of the story because I think obviously we get the idea where it's going and what's coming into conflict, at least in the immediate, where we have Purity, her sister's in play, and then we have two bounty hunters also in play.
Mhm.
And who knows what's going to happen, because we could have a crazy situation where you could have a four-way showdown for all you know, or a
Pretty
three-way
much.
showdown. You could have a two-way showdown. You could have a 3 against 1. You could have complete betrayals on everybody. You could have one of the bounty hunters kill the other one and have a good time.
Yeah.
Because if they're getting paid and if one doesn't come back and they get their cut, I mean, I'm just calling. I'm just saying, I
Yeah.
may be one of those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're learning a lot about me here. But I'm not going to push too hard because obviously issue 3 deals with some of that. Probably issue 4 is also going to deal with some of the
Yes.
consequences, if not more issues are going to deal
Yeah.
with it. But again, I'm not pushing too hard. But I do want to talk about the other side of this, because the campaign is in an interesting place. Because I'm going to just say it. It's slow and it's chugging along, but it's not moving the way that it's not an explosive
Mhm.
campaign. And so, what is that like for you? Because the book's done, but it's also really complicated when campaigns aren't really going, and you're getting backers, but you're going slow, right?
I think, yeah. Well, I think, put it this way. I knew right off the bat it was an interesting time to launch a book in these times. Like, I know a lot of people either, you know, stepped on the brakes a little bit with just what's happening in the world and everything. Like, people are like, who's going to pay attention to my book when, everything in the world is happening the way it's happening with like tariffs and everything. But coincidentally, like, if this were issue 1, it definitely would have funded a lot faster, because I think for a lot of people, and I could be right, I could be wrong, a lot of the time issue 1s I notice are the ones that fund the fastest. And then the biggest challenge then is how to bring people into issue 2. So issue 2 is always a very crucial issue. And I faced a few obstacles because, again, I also had a little bit of a slow streak in issue 2, where, how do you bring the issue 1 fans back? And the same thing happens with issue
Oh,
3, where it's
did,
like you're trying to bring, like, I think more so it's solidified throughout the process of like the recurring backers who are coming, but how do you make it new and exciting?
this
And
is interesting, right? In
yeah,
which that, because this is where I think this gets interesting from comics, right?
yeah,
Because I don't think this is a comic problem. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's a marketing problem. I
yeah,
think it's, how do you get my attention? I mean, right now, I'm backing fewer and fewer things because I'm in the process of running a business. I'm
mhm,
also in the worst possible position I could ever be, because I had the WNBA draft, the NFL draft, and I have the NBA draft all within 6 weeks of each other.
yeah,
It sucks right now because this is where my business lives and dies on. So I'm not backing people's campaigns because every dollar that I have extra is going to those 6 weeks. And I'm
yes,
sorry if you fall into a bad position. I don't know what to tell you. It's just, this is
mhm,
the worst 6 weeks of my year
yeah,
ever. It just is. But I'm also in a unique space. But everybody also has a bad 6 weeks. It doesn't matter if you're
yeah,
running a business or whatever it is.
yeah,
But what is that like? Because I think this is where it becomes a marketing problem. Because what are you doing? What are you doing to get out there? What new and fun ideas are in your campaign? And look, I've seen every gimmick on the planet. I've seen wooden covers, I've seen metal covers, I've seen hollow covers,
yeah,
I've seen squishy balls, I've seen, and I like some of these ideas, and some of these ideas I think are
yeah,
crazy. I've seen people do a bunch of crazy shit. And I'm just like, I don't really get a wooden cover. I don't want a wooden cover. It's
yeah.
not like
So
it's weird to me. Why would you kill a tree that way? It's
yeah.
like,
I think I'm in a position though where it's like sometimes those crazy like options are like overkill because it's exactly what you said. Like, what am I gonna do with a wooden cover? What am I gonna do with the metal cover? Like, especially those like are catered to more like collectors. But like what I did with Purity, I kind of opened the stage up, especially one of the tiers I offer. Kind of targets other writers and people looking for cover artists and such. I kind of offered a cover commission tier where it's like that's a cool thing. Obviously it's a little niche, but it kind of targets all the people reading, like watching, but it targets like other creators like, oh, like, that's a cool idea. So not only will I be getting a cover, I'm getting pretty much all the books and all the rewards. And like that was an interesting tier I dabbled with in issue 2, and we got a couple of backers for that. And then like another thing too, I offer like a few original art tiers, like custom commission tiers. This time around, I offer sketch cover because it was a popular demand. Like people begged for this in issue 2, where I offer sketch covers. So I've been doing that, and then also too, like outside of the Kickstarter, not only shows, but like I've been going to conventions, local shops, talking with them about the book, handing out flyers. So there's like a lot of moving parts. And like I feel like in this time, again, we're in a weird position, and I feel a lot of creators are probably going through the same thing where you're trying to do the next big thing because a lot of people aren't really it's slow. Like a lot of people aren't they're being a little more cautious of what they throw their money at. So you want to make sure
Let me ask this,
yeah,
because what I like to do is that I try to find products cheaper, and
yeah,
I try to pass those savings on to my customers, and I try to get products that are unique. I just bought, a limited 10 Jalen Brunson card. So I bought 2 of
mhm,
them, right? And sold out
yeah,
within 3 minutes. An autographed Jalen Brunson. I'm a
yeah,
Knicks fan, and it was a $140 card. I sold it for 325 because it sold out pretty quickly.
yeah,
So, that's the route I'm taking, is that super limited cards sell out quickly. People
yeah,
want it, and then people are going to pay a good amount for it. And I try to be reasonable,
yeah,
where I'm making a little bit of money, and then everybody knows that what the card costs, but everybody also knows that, well, none of them are up because the people
yeah,
who bought them, they bought one and they're not releasing it, right? And it's
yeah,
just so that I was just there first, right?
yeah, mhm,
And then I got 2, and I was tempted to buy 3, and I should have, but we're not all perfect. I'm
yeah,
sorry, we're not all perfect here. Um, two was enough. 2 was plenty. I did not know how I was going to go, but like I think it's really interesting when you have to start figuring out, because I don't know if you need the next big thing, or if you just need just a thing that's outside. Because if you have 20 covers or something and it's a
yeah,
really full book, I mean, now all of a sudden that's what it looks like. So I mean, I find this whole thing fascinating because, again, I think Kickstarter is really goddamn fucking tough right now.
yeah. It's very tough for a lot of people, and like I mentioned, like it's tough for a lot of people because especially too, I read in certain campaigns and certain, creators, what they're saying is like they've cut back just because of like tariffs and cost of things and, shipping. Shipping's gone up substantially.
Oh,
And
I know. I ship out so many cards. Let, let
yeah,
me let me break something down for everybody on an economic level, because I'll break it down. I sell cards. It
yeah,
used to be that a card cost 65 cents to ship. So a card, you put it in a top loader, penny sleeve it, and then you just buy it off of eBay, 65 cents. It
yeah,
cost me 69 cents. Now I know what everybody's saying here is, oh, 4 cents. No, 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 no. 4 cents is a lot,
yeah,
because it's not 4 cents one card a week. It's 4 cents times 50 cards a week.
hmm,
So 50 times 4, if I'm not mistaken, is $2 extra. But
yeah,
I don't charge money for shipping.
yeah,
So now if my margin was 35%, my margin comes down to 33%. And then all of a sudden, that's presuming that I sell the card for like $7.50. Now I'm spending 70 cents on shipping. And guess what also happens? The fucking envelope that I buy at Staples or Target or Amazon has gone up by a
Yeah.
dollar. And then all of
Mhm.
a sudden my top loaders go up by a dollar. My margins come down by 7%. And that's what happens. And so
Yes.
shipping, it's not just me shipping out the item, it's me getting my product too to
Yeah.
handle it. Now, granted, when I buy a card from Panini or Tops, I'm buying $300 worth of product. They send to me for free with free shipping, but nonetheless, that helps because I'm not paying for shipping from them because they give me free shipping and I'm a good customer. But nonetheless, it's really expensive because it cuts your margins real quick.
Yes, absolutely. So it's like that's another thing that I feel a lot of creators in this time um, are kind of like tuning into and looking like all the you know all the littlest things you could think of have gone up substantially. So that also might make things slower, and even too, like I said, international sales. So like the on the receiving end, backers are probably like I did get a lot of digital sales for this campaign so far. And I think it's because like, for example, to ship into Australia is easily like $28.
Well, I know
Easily.
exactly how much it is.
Yeah. So it's in a weird we're in a weird spot for crowdfunding, but we're still going I watch it every day. We get it trickles every few days.
So let me ask you
Yeah,
this because this is also, I think, interesting, right?
yeah,
So I think there's a lot of metrics how you can measure a Kickstarter.
yeah,
I think, and feel free to jump in and tell me if I'm wrong. I think the easiest metric to measure is how many backers you have. So if you had
yeah.
200 backers on one campaign and you have 205, you improved on a backer count. Just
Yes.
just on a basic metric. The
Mhm.
other metric is I think you can figure out how much traffic you're drawing to some degree on
Yes.
that. So if your traffic number and people are just clicking on it or looking at it, that's a good metric, whether that translates to sales or not.
Yeah.
That's I think an interesting metric to look at. And then I
Yeah.
think the other metric that's actually the most important metric, actually I think there's two metrics that are really important, is your average backer,
Yeah.
or back or pledge, or I don't know what we call it anymore, but if that's going up from campaign to campaign, that's a good thing. And then the other thing that I don't know if you can look at on Kickstarter, because it's been a while since I ran one, is returning backers average pledge. I don't know if they have that statistic yet.
They don't
I'm
have return like you could see in your back report of a returning backer. It doesn't say outright, "Oh, this person's returning from issue 2," but you
Because
could.
the reason why I bring this up from a business standpoint is the cost of acquiring a customer is a really important number to know, and the
Yeah.
cost of retaining a customer is also just as important, if not more important, and then also the value and the lifetime value of that backer. Because if I
Mhm.
can get a backer and it costs me $100 to get that backer, but then I'm running six, things, and that average backer is going to be worth $250, then for
Yeah.
me to acquire that backer for $100 is not that bad. It's
Yeah.
not. But again, I don't know if Kickstarter is there yet with that data, because that data is significantly important. But you can figure out your average backer cost or the
Mhm.
value of the average backer. And if that's going up,
Yes.
that's an important thing too. So that's the other thing that I think is really interesting, is that, and I don't know what that looks like for you. You don't have to disclose that, but
Yeah.
I think that's where also it's probably a little too early because it's harder to figure that out in the middle of a campaign because that
Yes.
can change. That changes every day, give or take.
Yeah, 100%. It could change tomorrow. We could fund tomorrow. We don't know, but like it could always
If you
change.
if you have a backer that all of a sudden dropped $1,000, that would statistically raise up everybody else's average backer count, or,
Yes.
or the value of a backer. Or if you had, everybody buying only $5 books, and then somebody bought a $500 book, but then
Yeah.
you had 10,000 people buying a $5 book, it would significantly lower that. But you get where I'm going with this, right?
Yes. Mhm.
So like that's what I think is really interesting, is that, obviously this is what I think is fascinating. I don't know what that looks like on Kickstarter per se,
Mhm.
because I don't know if people's average backer counts are going up overall on an average level or if they're staying the same. because that's a massive indicator if this is actually healthy or not. Because if everything is going up despite the economy, regardless of how many campaigns are active and all that stuff. But this is the data I actually want. I don't want the data of how many active campaigns there are because I don't give a shit about that. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
It really doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
What means something is how many campaigns are funding and what is the amount of money that is being crowdfunded and what is the recurring backers, what are the new backers, and what is the average that backer is pledging.
Mm-hmm. And I think, like I said earlier, it's harder the further you go down issue after issue because, someone told me a while back, issue ones always sell because it's the first issue. So you're probably going to get a higher backer count regardless for issue one because it's issue one. It's about maintaining that, backer count throughout. And like a lot of people, I feel like come and go after issue two, during issue two, but like ultimately you're going to see your the biggest backer count probably in issue one.
It's interesting because I'll ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
I've backed out of a bunch of issues after issue two, and I'll tell you why. I looked at the book, and I'm not going to name names, and I'm like, man, I can't deal with this character. I can't deal with this. We just wasted 40 pages. Like I just wasted $40.
Yeah.
You're doing 6 issues. I can't ride with you for $120.
Yeah.
It was getting. I gave you 2 issues to fix this. Book was fine. Understood the concept, but I got the character as a bitch. I didn't need 40 pages of knowing the character as a bitch. I got it. I got it. I could have lived with it for maybe a whole issue, but 25 pages of the character being a bitch. I mean, I'm sorry. I got it. I got the point within page 3.
Oh,
I didn't need 25 pages or 40 pages of that. I got it. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you, I think that's why, like, too, like, even with Purity, it was very strategic what I did with the story because it's like I wanted something new and exciting to offer each issue. So it's like to keep people going in the story, it's building up, I think too, it's like I will say Purity is a very plot heavy book. As campy as like if it spoofs Little Nicky, however you want to call it, but like it is a plot heavy book. So I usually, especially issues 1 and 2, both left on a cliffhanger. So I try and engage the story even more. So I'm trying to keep it in a way where the next issue is still going to be new and exciting for the read, like just the readers.
So to even go further into this, because the other side of this, and what I also think is interesting is that you're doing also, and then this is an advantage for you, is that you're doing most of the heavy lifting on this book because you're the writer. And if you're the creator and writer, obviously you're the owner of the book. So if you're an owner of a book, it's different than if you're hired to do a book. If Dynamite comes to you and you're hired to do a book, that's a different discussion. Unless you're a part owner of it or you have equity in the book, it's different. But when you're the writer, you're drawing it, you're coloring most of it, if not all of it. I don't know if you letter. Do you letter your books or
no? I have an
so you're smart. So you're actually smart. I'm sorry. That's a mean joke.
No, because I'll tell you the truth. I dabbled in lettering. I was not successful at it, and
it's a mean joke. I'm sorry. It's a really mean joke, but it's a funny one nonetheless.
It's funny because the letterers that I have worked with, I've learned that bad lettering can really ruin a book. Like people like imagine like seeing a book with like such beautiful art and you have these obnoxious like non-consistent word balloons and the font in every balloon is like a different size. Like, it's been there. And I'm an avid believer that bad lettering can ruin a book. As I feel like in any stage, like bad colors could ruin a book if the artwork is beautiful. Inks, like an inker could destroy a penciler's like, what the penciler has done. And like so each stage could like make or break a book, but I feel like lettering is one of those things that even I look into even mainstream comics, see how the lettering is because, again, like if it's shit lettering, shit sound effects and such, like, it's gonna look tacky on your book. I don't.
The point I'm making is that you're still doing most of the heavy lifting, though, because at
Oh
the end
yeah.
you draw it, I think you draw it, I think you write it, and that
Mhm.
also significantly changes your cost and your risk.
Yeah.
If you had to go hire a artist, a colorist, a letterer, an inker, and then still do the 4, 5, or 6 covers that you're doing, print it, and then other stuff, all of a sudden you're looking at what, 8 to 9K?
Yeah.
Being generous, right?
Yeah, like paying like the rates that they want and stuff, and just it can go anywhere from like just like especially too whenever you see someone launch like a 10K Kickstarter, there's a reason behind there because they're paying for all of the talent, especially if they're not doing all the heavy lifting. It's expensive to make a comic. People don't realize that. It's like if your team is small, it could be anywhere from like 2 to 5 grand. But if it's like a bigger book with bigger, named team members, it could be anywhere from
There are
like
people, there are people, and you and I both know people where I know people who spent. Let's see, I know people who have spent 7 to 8 grand on covers.
yeah.
I mean, it's not unheard of.
Yeah, and
And,
I mean, I'll tell you the truth. If I'm spending 7 or 8 grand on a cover, I better be getting that original. I'll be getting like, God, that's just astounding.
let's put it this way: if you went out and I mean, it wasn't like they spent 7 grand on one cover, but
Yeah,
I'll throw a name out there: Paul Green, Jamie Tyndall,
yeah,
Adam Hughes. You can make an argument: Sun Kumanaki, Keith Garvey.
yeah,
Those people are expensive,
yeah.
and
Absolutely.
and and you might not get an original. I mean, I think
Yeah,
what Jamie Tyndall's like a grand,
yeah,
1,200. Mike Raffo is up
yeah.
there.
Like what I also do too, where it's like, it's kind of like a win-win situation for me, but I also respect the people I hire who don't want that. But like even too, like I color most of the covers for my book. It saves costs, but also I it's also kind of bragging rights where it's like, oh, I colored over this person and I could brag it to my friends and my girlfriend. But like I always offer that to like the cover artist I hire. I'm like, I typically color the covers, I tell them, but if you have someone else in mind, I'm totally cool with it. But
But
like,
also, aren't there some cover artists who do it all?
yeah, there are some cover artists that we had in issue 2, we had John Stinsman, and he was very adamant on he's like, I like doing the full process. He's like pencils, inks, and colors. Like it's nothing against your colors or anyone else's colors. It's just it's part
It's
of what
it's my it's my work, and I'm doing it,
yeah.
and that's the end of
And
the discussion.
I'm
It's
not going to be like, and like, especially for like someone like John
You're like,
Stins.
no, that's not how
Yeah,
this works. You're fired.
yeah. I'm not going to be like, well, tough shit. Here's how it's going to go. Like, no, like, of course, like, I'm not going to say no. But, like, I mean, sometimes too, like, I just, you know, I love coloring the covers that, you know, I want to say I've colored maybe 95% of the covers for Purity.
But the,
And
the, the reason why I bring this up is that it changes the way you can do a campaign.
yeah,
I have Les Gardner on who does the brides book
yeah,
that we put out there, and I had Mark Spears on as well. And again, when you do the whole thing, so Mark Spears did the monster series. He does the whole fucking thing,
yeah,
right? I think he does the lettering. I think he
yeah,
does the covers. I think he's done everything. Like all those variants are his.
yeah,
Like I don't like it's sick. It's sick. Like, he has all these variants, and they do well for me, and I sell them, and I love them, and they're fantastic. But he does the whole fucking thing, and 7 issues of drawing, 7 issues of inking,
yeah,
seven issues of I don't know. I think they're black and white books. I don't know if they're colored.
yeah,
But which also changes it. But all of a sudden, if you do $50,000 on a campaign and you did the whole fucking thing, not saying that your time isn't worth money. I don't know what you would pay yourself to do this book, but
yeah,
it's worth whatever you would pay yourself to do. But you're also an owner of the book, which also changes it.
yeah.
Like I don't know
So
how
like,
to explain that, right? It's complicated, right? To explain. I mean, I could tell you what I would charge for an interview. If somebody
yeah,
said, Andrew, I want you to do this show, I would charge about $400 per
Yeah.
episode. Because
Yeah.
it's not, I mean, the whole process of research, booking, doing it, editing, micro content, promoting,
Yeah.
we're talking 6 to 7 hours.
Yeah, like it varies for each book, but I do agree where it's a tough thing to answer because it varies. Varies, man.
So
Mhm.
again, I wasn't putting you on the spot, but I
No.
want to make that point crystal clear, is that it's very, and I think this is where comics are going. I think you're going to see more and more people who can do parts of the process. Because if you're an artist and you can somewhat write well,
Yeah.
you're already ahead if you can do
Yeah. Like
half
and
the book.
and even that too, like I've known a few creators who've done the whole process, writing, pencils, inks, colors, and letters. And look, it's a lot of work, but at the end of the day, it's like they're more well aware of what their money, where their money's going to, and like they could probably like alter their Kickstarter goal to like a more flexible kind of goal, and it might be more to their benefit. So I do agree. I think more people are going to gear towards that. Like one of my good friends, he has a live campaign right now. JT Malloy, he writes, draws. I'm pretty sure he does everything. I think he does pencils, inks, colors, and letters. So like he runs his whole ship. So I mean, it's really cool to see. So I do agree. You're gonna see more creators like that.
It changes the way you do things. Like
Mhm.
I do this whole show, right?
Yeah,
I don't want anybody else touching it.
yeah,
I don't want a booker either, to be quite honest. I tried using a booker and it doesn't work. It doesn't work because here's what happens. They booked 10 guests, 5 of them sucked.
Mhm.
5 of them sucked, 5 of them were not good, 5 of them were not good fits. They're decent people, but they were not the people who should be on my show. The other
yeah.
5 were great. They were great.
Mhm.
It wasn't. I mean, there are other problems too. It's the fact that your client's paying you a lot of money. I'm not seeing a penny of it, and that rubbed me the wrong way too for a different reason. It's like I'm doing all the
Yeah,
work, but then also like 4 or 5 guests didn't show up on top of those 10 that he booked. It was terrible. But it goes back to the idea that the 5 that did show up that were bad didn't look good. And so now I can't have no control over it.
yeah.
And because I have complete control over it, I can control quality. And I
Mhm.
think that's the other thing too, is that the more somebody's involved in something,
Yeah.
if you're the writer and you're drawing a tree, you know how the tree is supposed to look.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like and like even too, like I was like talking about this on another show where I'm also very picky when it comes to cover artists. Like I call myself even like a helicopter client or a helicopter artist because
You're a helicopter mom for your book.
yeah, no, because it's more so like uh, it makes me so anxious when like some people will hire a cover artist to tell them, you can do whatever you want. I'm like, me, when I get hired to do covers, that's like the worst thing to tell me. I'm like, give me structure, give me direction. I want like, so like when I hire an artist, I kind of give them like a brief description of what I'm looking for in the cover and maybe play around with this layout. I still leave some room for them to obviously do their own
So
thing, but like
it's
I'm
interesting,
very,
right?
yeah,
I'm a big Elias Chazoudis fan, so I
yes,
got a commission from him. So I said to him, "Here's a Van Helsing book to Firefighter Sexy Samantha. It's a cover he did where it's Robin Hood as a firefighter. She's
yeah,
got like pink straps over her
mhm,
breasts. She's got like a pink thong on, holding a fire pants in front of the Flatiron Building. Great book, great cover, love it. It was New York Comic Con. Great concept, great book, loved it. So what I told him, I said, just do it in Van Helsing, but I'm not going to tell you how to do it. You
yeah,
should know the cover. He knows the cover. He knows it's supposed to be Van Helsing. I say, have at it, right? But I'm not going to tell you what to do in your book, right?
yeah. Like it's more so. It's I think it comes down to the point where like I have a certain criteria that my
I
book
gave
has
him
to.
direction. I gave him direction, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you how to draw the line.
Yeah, no, like I put it this way where it's like obviously I hired you because I want you like your flair on this, but at the same time, there's still certain things to adhere to with my books. So it's like, you know, as long as like it looks like purity and her costume looks as accurate as the interiors, you know, that's all I ask for. But like I've I do sometimes get and like people always ask me like, don't you think you're a little too picky? I'm like, I mean, if I
My
pay for the
money.
cover, I would like some creative like it's almost like a 50-50 where it's like I would love some creative direction, you know. I want to be involved and I love, you know, I want to be involved in the
But
creative process.
it's tricky though, right? Because I don't know how you feel, but I don't leave my money undefended.
Yeah.
Mostly,
Yeah.
mostly. Obviously, sometimes you have to leave your money undefended. You got to take risks in life with money, but for the most part, I don't leave my money undefended, right?
Yeah.
My money usually is pretty well defended and usually well protected in a variety of ways. Um, but obviously, I mean, if you're booking a cover and you're spending $250 or $300, I mean, it's a decent amount of money, right?
Yeah. Decent
So
amount.
it's not. I don't think it's that ridiculous to say, well, I'm gonna watch what you're gonna do a little bit.
Yeah. Like you know, again, like everyone's different. So I know some creators are very against that and we're like I hired them. They could do whatever they want to my character. But then obviously there are some creators who are like me that have they want more structure because like you know putting the money where their mouth is essentially like just like we just want something that best represents our book. So again, like look, if I'm just saying if Mark Silvestri wants to do a cover for my book, I'm not going to tell that man what to do. That's like the few exceptions. I'd be like,
See,
so
I would. If I did a
yeah,
book and somebody wanted to do something like, let's say, J. Scott Campbell said, "Oh, I love your character." I'd say, "Cool." I'm not going to tell you exactly what to do. I'm going to say, but obviously there are rules to my
yeah,
character, and this is kind of what I'm looking for. What do you think?
hmm
Right? And look, I mean, if he has a better idea, I'm all open for it. But
yeah,
I'm not leaving somebody alone with my character. I mean, I can tell you
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah. No, I know. I'm just it's my little joke with like because Mark Silvestri is like one of my favorite artists, so it's like he's like one like maybe the only artist that I would ever be like, yeah, you can do whatever. But like it's yeah, no, but I totally agree where it's like if money's involved, it's yeah, I like to
But
be
it's
involved.
also different. Let's say your favorite artist said, "I want to draw your a cover for you, but I'm not going to charge you." At
Yeah,
that point, you really can't have any clout either. The second you're paying for
yeah,
something, you can do it.
yeah,
When I'm paying for something, I can tell you to do whatever I want.
yeah, yeah,
Anything custom, and I've ordered a bunch of custom stuff in my life across every sector. And when it's custom, I'm gonna give you an idea. But I also say to people, look, use creative freedom. Don't just here's my script on what I want or here's my idea, but use creative freedom. But
mhm,
I was at a comic shop for curse words, and Ryan Brown and Charles Soule wrote curse words, and they were drawing in the book for everybody for free. And
yeah,
so people saying, "Oh, could you do Wolverine? Could you do Batman? Could you do this?" And I just said to Ryan, I said, "Draw whatever you want." And so Ryan Brown decides on himself is going to draw a gigantic horse across like 2.5 pages, and it's just like he's going all detailed on it. People are like, "What the fuck?" Like
yeah,
he's drawing these little sketches for people that are decent size, and he's happy to do it. I'm like, why don't you draw what you want? And he decided to draw like this big horse thing, and he drew like a koala riding the horse, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And like it was great. Still have the
oh,
book.
man,
It's funny. And then Charles Soule was trying to draw something to, and he like had to like turn the book like upside down to draw it. It was
yeah,
great. Very funny moment. But the point is that it was a free sketch. So I said,
yeah.
why don't you draw what you want to draw? And then we'll work from there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That I do agree on that. Like if it was like a gift or they're doing it for free, you know, then it's fair game. Then, you know, fine.
But it wasn't a cover. It was just like in the inside of the book, and it was great. He just draws a gigantic. He's like drawing a koala riding a horse. I'm like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is this shit? Like, it was a good one. But like, I find it interesting because again, I protect my money, and if I'm hiring somebody to do something, you're damn right I'm gonna watch what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're gonna get direction, and if you're not okay with that, then maybe I hired the wrong person.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
But I digress. But I do want to show covers because they're cool. So I don't know who the artist on this one is, but I heard he's not a good person.
Yeah.
No. This is obviously your
Uh-oh.
cover. This is your cover. I really couldn't find a better image of it beyond this one. It was tough. It was tough because like you make the graphic and it's like there's no way for me to like just take a screenshot of it. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So that's your cover.
Yep.
Then
we have Courtney. Then we have Courtney Rose, and for any Witchblade fan out there, might know this is like a nice little homage to Witchblade #4. After Michael Turner, of course. Me and Courtney are both big Witchblade fans, so I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna do a homage, I want it to be a Witchblade homage. So this is one of my favorite covers in the run.
And then we have this one right here.
Yep, Art Voyager. This is another fun cover. I gave him. I was inspired by Greg Land's Dark Phoenix cover, and I was like, I want Purity like engulfed in fire, but in like a sexy way. And he actually made it like an upshot, and I was like, I really enjoyed how this cover came out, and I colored it, so colors by me. But yeah, it was an overall really fun cover.
We have this one.
Yeah, Josh Howard. So big indie artist, does Dead 17. I was introduced to him by a colleague of mine, and I loved his graphic look. I loved like the cartoony look. It kind of reminds you of like something you'd see like Dan Mendoza put out with Zombie Tramp. Yeah, I wanted a cover from him. So that features both the bounty hunters. So to the left, the little green guy is Vex, and to the right is Amadeus. And they're both the characters who are on the hunt for Purity.
So we have that, and then obviously we got this right here.
So that is our Satan cover. So it's not a Purity campaign without a Satan cover. Again, like I've been doing that since issue 1. People seem to really love the character, and there's a little bit of a following. So I wanted to do one for this time around by Todd Ferguson. Very beautiful cover, colors by me. But to show you, Andrew, to show you like that halo thing, just to see how it like that's like that's the design I went with Satan. I just wanted to make it like instead of horns, it's like shaped like devil horns, but it also shaped like a halo as well.
And then we got this one right here.
Yep, Rod Espinoza. He is Antarctic Press veteran artist for years. He reached out one day and was like, I really love drawing I really love your character. If you need any covers, let me know. And I was like, I'm not going to say no to Rod Espinoza. I was like, all right, like, absolutely. So this was actually the first cover in the Purity #3 cover run that I received. Oh, I'm almost, I think, a little over a year now.
It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one is the one that's the like indie bundle, and
yep,
it's like cross promoting and all that stuff. So what's the story behind that?
So JT Malloy is a really good friend of mine. Before him and I became friends, I was already a big fan of the Sapphire Spectre. One of my favorite indie characters. Basically spooky Witchblade, which I really love. It's really fun. So I go to him. I'm like, we want to do something very 90s. And he's like, what do you mean? Because he's like, both of our books are very 90s. What are you talking about? I'm like, all right, so hear me out on this. So I'll do a cover for Sapphire Spectre featuring Purity, and you do a cover for Purity featuring Sapphire Spectre. But for my campaign, every backer will receive a digital PDF of Sapphire Spectre #1 with their order. And anyone who backs my cover for your campaign gets a digital PDF of Purity #1. So it's a cool cross promotion tier, and it introduces the character to some new readers. So it was a really fun cover, and I like what I like about JT's art is he gives it like a very animated series look. So yeah, I think he did a very awesome job with this cover.
And then you got the sketch one right here.
Yep. So every person who backs this will get a sketch cover and also the standard cover.
So, and then you got a bunch of combos. You got a bunch of stuff where I think you can get all the covers.
Yep.
I think you can get like a mix and match. You can get some other stuff in there.
Yep.
And then if you want, just like I think you can get 3 covers in there, right?
Yeah, you can get you can mix and match 2 covers, and you can mix and match 4 covers, and then you can get the whole cover bundle. And then the heroic Hellion tier, you get all the digital rewards, all the traditional covers, and then also 11 by 17 commissioned by me, and then it goes down to like the other commission tiers that I offer.
So obviously there's a lot of stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the other thing that I think is interesting is that your prices are relatively reasonable. It might be the word, where I think it's what, 15 for a print for
yeah. Yep, 15 for
copy. It's a physical copy. Sorry. It's been a long day. And the word won't come to me. So it's a physical copy is 15 for most of them. I think the JT one is 20.
Yeah. Because it offers the digital PDF.
And then would the person also get a digital PDF of yours as well?
So wait, repeat that question.
Because in your physicals, right?
Yes.
Everybody gets a digital copy of it too.
Everyone gets a digital with their physical copy.
Yeah, I asked the question because I've been on campaigns where you don't get a digital unless you pay more.
No,
so you might get a physical, which I thought was crazy.
Yeah, no, I always love, having a digital copy at all times, even with my physical copies of the books. Because, like, look, what happens if one day your basement floods and your comics are ruined? Yeah, you can get a new one, but you have also, if you wanted to read it, you have a spare one.
I take it a different approach, is that I like collecting comics.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily want to read the comic I just got. It's a beautiful cover. I don't want to ruin it. It's bagged and board. I throw it into my long box. I like having it there because I like my collection, but I don't want to crack open a book. But I want to read it, right? So like I read a lot of digital comics because, and I still have physical comics, and this sounds weird, but like I want to back the physical because I like the physical, but I don't want to read the physical.
Yes. No, I agree on that standpoint too, where if you're collecting it, I agree. You don't want to crack it open and like crease it and everything. And having the digital tier just kind of allows you to enjoy that book without doing said thing.
I ask it because there's been things where I have not gotten a digital.
Yeah.
And I thought it was crazy. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it happens. It's happened once. It's happened once where somebody didn't like the digital just was not there. But there's also been campaigns where there was no point for a digital either. But that's a different discussion completely.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was funny to me. But that's why I asked this. And then obviously, I mean, there's just a lot of other stuff. But I think it's really interesting that having a $15 book, because I get it's indie and it has to be more expensive because you're not printing 8,000 copies of your book or 12,000 copies, or you don't have a good relationship with Diamond, or what else is there? What is it? Penguin Random House now, or is it
Lunar?
Lunar. That's the one. Lunar. Where if you're printing on a basis in your DC Comics or Marvel, and you're printing 500,000 comics every single month across all your titles, along with some trade paperbacks and some other stuff, you know what? It doesn't matter what your print run is, whether it's 1,500 books or whatever. You're offset printing the whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
Lunar wants your business, and they're going to give you a good price.
Yes.
Because even if they're making 10 cents every single book they print, they're printing so much fucking content that they don't want to lose the account.
Yeah.
But that's not you, because you're not printing.
But
8,000 copies.
I print. Yeah. No. Yeah, no, so that's why I'll make it a little more expensive than the normal. But I'll tell you the
Right.
truth, the way comics go.
15 is not bad. 15 is not bad for an indie.
Yeah,
It's really not.
yeah, no, I personally like I was when I was starting with Puri number one, I was doing my research to see what other people were offering. And I saw one where someone was offering for like a 32-page book, like $35. I'm like, that's like even more
That's
expensive than a trade paperback. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, absolutely not. I, as a consumer, would not pay 30 something bucks for
now,
it.
granted, if it was like a limited 20,
Yeah.
now we're getting into something that's a different entity. Like this is why with that book, I'm not gonna name the book, but after 2 issues at 20 a piece, I
Yeah.
mean the variants were fine and all, but like or cover B and cover C was fine, but I'm like, dude, I can't ride this with you for $40. I
Wow.
get I got 64 pages, but like I can't do this for another fucking 4 issues
Yeah.
at
No,
20 a piece. I
no.
mean, I think 20 is a lot. I mean, 15 is really where I'll be honest. I think these things should sit at 12. Not
Yeah.
your book, but I think most books should be 12 to 15 on the indies.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think you, the consumer, you the producer, has to figure out how to produce in volume to get your costs down.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting sick and tired of paying 20, $25 for like a cover B. That
Yeah.
sure it's a variant to some degree, but it's like your cover A and your
Yeah.
cover Bs. I mean, I mean, I'm paying $4 for a fucking card, right? Like,
Yeah. But also too, you got to put in mind too, even with like crowdfunding, it's just like included shipping. So like, say if your book is like $35 and your shipping's
exactly.
like another $15. So I mean, I try and make it a little bit more cost effective for backers, and even that too. Like I even include the digital as an additional thank you. Just thank you for backing the book. Here's also an additional digital copy, just as a also just a big thank you. So I try and do the right thing in regards for that.
Again, there's only just so much money I fucking have,
Yeah.
and I'll be honest, I'll take a chance, but there gets a fucking horns. Like I can't do this shit.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely.
I just can't. And because you and I both have been through this, everybody's been through this, where you spend $25 and then you're like, "What the fuck did I buy? This is a piece of shit."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Why did I do that?"
Yeah. Or like
And
the interior in the you have a beautiful cover and the interiors aren't even as consistent to like.
or the story. How many books have you read where you're like, "Great concept, I get where they were going, but they needed an editor."
Yeah. That's why I brought in an editor, because I was like, I need an extra pair of eyes on my stuff at all times.
If you're gonna spend $9,000 to produce a book, you
Yeah.
might as well spend 9,500 for an editor.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Because the cost of that extra $500 is not gonna
There
go.
was a book I backed years
What
ago.
what name? Name. I'm joking.
um, and the grammar on the book was so awful that it really threw me off and threw me out of the story. Like I couldn't focus on because the wording for everything was so like this person needed an editor on the book. There were such blatant grammatical errors throughout the entire issue, and I was like, this I couldn't get into the story because there was just I was like I had to read extra slow to read the book because I'm like I couldn't. There's so many grammatical errors that it was like this person needed an editor.
So there's what, three types of editors, right?
Yeah,
There's a story editor.
yeah,
So sometimes the problem is that, hey, you just need some help
yeah,
building this out on plot.
yeah,
Okay, that's fine, right? That's one type of editor. That's probably the most important type of editor, to be honest.
yeah,
At least I think it is, because if your story doesn't logically make sense, unless it's not supposed to, right?
yeah,
With Tom about this, my favorite book is Axe Cop. Axe
yeah,
Cop is complete randomness and complete, like, a cop is walking down an alley and then a werewolf comes out of nowhere, and then a ninja comes out of nowhere too, and then a refrigerator falls on the werewolf. That's the definition of axe cop. It's then this happens, then this happens, and this happens, and then they're in their lair, and then they find a map to where all the bad guys are, right?
Yeah.
And it's like they jump through like a vent to get to the bad guys. It's ridiculous. It's like I'm getting drunk with my friends on Free Comic Book Day in college, and we're reading Axe Cop, and we're all passing it around and laughing our asses off, half intoxicated. Brilliant book, but you don't take it seriously, right? But that you don't care what the grammar is on that book. You don't care. You don't need an editor for that book. The point of Axe Cop is it's the perfect book to get drunk with.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's great. It's
but like if you're trying to read like Alan Moore or trying to read like something that's like more thought provoking, that editor
V for Vendetta had an editor.
Yeah.
And it was great, but Alan Moore is also a great writer. Yes. And Dave Gibson is also a great artist who understands how to work with Alan Moore.
Yeah.
What no, I'm sorry, it was David Lloyd. Dave Gibson was Watchmen.
Yeah.
Right? David Lloyd did V for Vendetta, I think.
I'm
pretty sure of that.
No, it was Alan Moore.
No, the artist.
Oh, yeah, Tony Ware and David Lloyd.
Yeah. So Dave Gibson was the artist on Watchmen, I think.
Mm-hmm.
If my memory serves me correct.
Yes.
I mix those two books up because they're very different books, but I mix up artists sometimes.
Yeah.
But no, nobody's gonna hold it against me, hopefully. but I think it's interesting. But again, I don't know. I don't even know what my point was. This is not good. This happens.
Okay.
But no. I think it's fascinating. But again. That's so. But the other thing is the other editor. That's what we're talking about. It is a grammatical editor.
Yes.
And that's also important to some degree.
Yeah. Oh, and then I'll tell you the truth. There's the third editor. I don't know if we're thinking the same editor, not the person, but just like the kind of editor. Just get it to them on the deadline and make it look pretty. They don't really like dive into the art or anything. They're just like, I trust you. Just get it to me on time. And that's, the other kind of editor that I've worked with, which again,
there's that. There's also managers.
Yes.
Like saying, cool, you said that your book was going to be done in 9 months. Why? Where are we here? We're 3 months in, and you don't have many of the pages complete. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Or whatever. So it is what it is. But obviously, I do want to obviously, and then I want to back out all this because we're getting into trouble here to some degree. But I am curious where you think pop culture is going and where comics are going and all that stuff is going.
So I think, again, we're kind of facing like a second indie renaissance. So we haven't had this big boom in indie comics since the 90s. So I think you're going to see more people stay in like the indie light. I feel like, look, Marvel and DC aren't going anywhere. But I feel like there's going to be more of a demand for indie books and characters within the next 5, like from now to like the next 5 or so years. And I think it's still going to be pretty prominent. It's going to be like, remember in like the 90s, like you'll get the most obscure indie characters all of a sudden have action figures and video games.
Let me ask you this. Do you feel that it's more profitable and that it's also cheaper to do now? Because I mean, this is going to sound fucked up, but obviously I don't think you're necessarily a fan of gatekeeping, and I don't think most people are. Yeah. But I also think that we have to openly acknowledge that gatekeeping is a good thing sometimes too, because
I think there's certain things where I feel I wouldn't use gatekeeping for what I'm trying to describe, but there has to be structure. There's a formula.
I'll put it this way, right? So we go back to my earlier point about that guy booking a bunch of guests. The 5 guests were not informed that, cool, you're not hopping over a fence, but you're coming on an interview show. It's not a comic hangout.
Yes.
So there wasn't a gate per se, but they should have been informed, hey, this is an interview. It's
Yes.
not a hangout. I run a wrestling show on my Friday tomorrow night. All me and my friend do is we talk wrestling and guests come and go, and it's a hangout. But
Yeah.
but it's structured, right? It's a structured hangout. But we're talking about
Yeah.
wrestling Monday Night Raw, WrestleMania. We're having a good time. People show up. It's good. Everybody's having a beer or two. It's a fun time, but it's not like it's a hangout, right? So it's less lax rules.
Yes.
This is an interview. So
Yeah.
there's a gatekeeping element to that. So I guess with comics is that I don't want to say somebody can't do it, but there also has to be regulation.
I think like the best way I'd describe it is how I go over with like purity, where it's like there was a phrase that I heard not so long ago where it's called you can revert to the classics without being bound by them. So what I mean by that is just do your homework. Like, for example, when I went into Bad Girl Comics, I researched a lot of Bad Girl Comics. I read a lot of Bad Girl Comics. You have to know the rules if you want to break the rules, and that even goes to just applying even like that rule applies to even drawing, knowing the rules before you break the rules. But like even when it comes to the certain genres you want to push, like, do your homework, do your research, see what's already out there, see, like just think to yourself, like in a certain genre, like would this be practical? Would this be like a issue in this character's world? Like there's so many things to factor in, but ultimately I think in regards for gatekeeping, as long as you like do your homework, it should be fine. Like again,
I'll put it a different way. So maybe I view it as a consumer, right?
yeah,
Is that I think that gates are not meant necessarily to keep people out. They're meant to make it harder to go over them, right?
yeah,
So great. Now everybody can go on Kickstarter, come up with a concept, say, I'm going to do a comic, launch it, technically not have anything done, and they might get funded. There is no gate. The
yeah,
point is that if I have a fence right around my property, I have a dog and I want to let my dog run around in my yard and I want her to be safe. But if somebody wants to get into my yard, they got to climb the fence. They got to put effort into getting over the fence.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know, like, so
yeah, and that's a good point too, where it's like I think it just shows that you gotta be on your A game. You gotta put in the effort to make a good product. It's not like you're not gonna like wake up one day, I'm gonna make a comic and you launch the Kickstarter at the end of the week and be like, all right, good luck. Like there has to be like, structure in that degree where I agree, where it's not like you're blocking the person from doing those things, but also you want to make it a worthy challenge for them. Like they're gonna feel fulfilled by the very end, being like, all right, like you know what I mean? Like they're gonna feel like, all right, I earned this.
No, I just want somebody to have skin in the game, I guess is where I'm going with this. Because if all of a sudden you put $3,000 into this and you fail, if you're asking for my money, I want you to have skin in the game.
Yes.
I think that's quite reasonable. I saw a campaign that had nothing done, had no skin in the game, and they didn't start working on the book until it was funded. And I'm like, what the fuck was that? And I thought it was insulting. I'm not going to name who it was, but it's somebody somewhat prominent in comics. And I'm like, what the fuck? And they should be called out.
Yeah.
And they should rightfully be called out because it was offensive to me. It was. I didn't back their campaign, but I was offended nonetheless. And they eventually did fund and they started working on the book. But I'm like, it took you 7 days of you not doing a damn thing. And you're asking me for money and you are not going to take any risk until you know that you're covered. What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's just insulting.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
But that's how I feel. But and then obviously, I mean that's kind of pop culture and all that stuff, or comics. But where do you see pop culture going? Because that's the other thing that I think is interesting, and I'm always curious how people feel about pop culture, which is everything but comics in this question.
Everything but comics. I don't know. I feel like we're in like a newer age of nerd, if that makes sense. Like I feel like, you know, even I'll kind of call out like current anime fans. I don't want to say gatekeep what I'm about to do, but I'm like an elder weeb like elder weebs like us walked so you guys could run, because I remember like I was getting bullied for watching Naruto. But now like people are like, "Oh, it's so cool to be into anime," and like celebrities are vocal about anime, and like everyone, it's like the cool thing. And like, look, all jokes aside, I'm happy it's gotten to that point. But like, I think you're gonna get the next era of that with like I think anime is gonna be an even more prominent medium in storytelling and art if it's not already. But I feel like it's going to be more accepted. Like people are going to be more enticed by indie books and like more just like indie stuff, not just Marvel and DC and the mainstream. They're gonna find new compelling characters and like IPs that they're gonna fall in love with. So I think we're in a very good spot for pop culture, I think.
I don't disagree. I'm a big anime fan. I've been there for years.
Yeah. Like my
I
first
remember. I remember. I mean, let me put it this way, which that I was definitely looked at weird in
yeah,
high school. I wasn't, but I was also smart. I
yeah.
also, it is they got to a point where I'm just wearing an anime t-shirt. I'm like, I'm not going to conform to this Aeropostale and this Abercrombie and Fitch stuff. I'm just not going to conform to it.
Yeah.
Like,
I like one anime that I even suggest to people like as their starter anime, because it's just overall like a great starter anime, is Inuyasha. It's one of my all-time favorites. And even that too, the the fan base is still alive and well, and even newer fans are going in, and I'm like thinking some of my students are like just turning 18, 19, and they're like, yeah, like I love Inuyasha. I'm like, how old are you? I'm like, what? Like Inuyasha, like I remember watching that when I was like 5 years old, man. Like
I recommend Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood
yeah, I love Full Metal
as
Alchemist Brotherhood.
as a starter. Um,
I
it-
I also
yeah,
think look, Naruto's a good starter. Dragon Ball Z to me is too confusing because there's like I just don't like the fact, and people might hate what I'm about to say. I get it's the anime, but like I hate the fact it takes like Goku 5 episodes and a filler episode to charge up his Kamehameha. Like I'm just like, just get to the point already. You're either gonna shoot it,
see,
or,
I'm a big DBZ fan.
yeah,
So I'm a big G-Shock Watch fan too.
yeah,
So I have a Dragon Ball Z G-Shock Watch.
yeah,
So I actually think the Dragon Ball Z G-Shock Watch is better than the One Piece G-Shock Watch that came out
yeah,
at the same time. And the One Piece watch is actually appreciated better than the DBZ watch. It's
yeah.
not as cool. And in the 40th anniversary book of G-Shock, the Dragon Ball Z watch has its own page, has its own
Hmm.
two-page spread because it's more culturally significant. And so I was actually at the 40th anniversary party at G-Shock because I won
That's
tickets
awesome.
and J Balvin was performing.
Oh wow.
So I got to see J Balvin perform while like in like a VIP section because I won tickets to that and
The
it's
Dragon Ball Z.
not because of the Dragon Ball Z watch, but
No, but
because
like the whole party theme was Dragon Ball Z.
it wasn't even that. No. It was just G-Shock. It was their 40th anniversary party
Oh,
in the
okay.
Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City. And so I'm saying to myself, oh man, like I went with my dad into the city. It was great. The whole thing was awesome. It was like a fucking party. There was like 2,000 people there. It was wild.
Wow.
It was a wild show and it was great. It was the whole thing was great and I had a blast.
Cool.
And then I have a League of Legends watch. I have a Super Mario watch from them. I have a Bayshore Route watch, which is dope, which is a highway in Tokyo.
Hmm.
It's a famous drifting highway in
You're a
Tokyo.
watch guy. You like watches.
I do. I do. I have a problem.
It's
Um,
okay. My dad for years tried to get me into watches. He finally got me like a watch that I'm like, all right, I'm in my watch era now. Like, all right, I appreciate watches, but
When I sell a particular card that's a very, very expensive Boston Celtic card, I'm probably gonna take a good chunk of that and buy a very expensive like $1,500 G-Shock watch.
nice, nice.
They're dope. What it is that every single watch is different that they make of this one
Yeah.
because it's cut, and every piece that they cut from is a different piece. It's like granite, essentially. I could talk about watches all day.
Yeah.
I just like cool watches, and G-Shock does all these collabs that are just dope. So like they did League of Legends, they've done Dragon Ball Z, they've done One Piece, they've done Gundam, they've done Neon Genesis Evangelion. Like they have like a huge anime like vibe and connection because G-Shock is a really cool company for that.
Mhm.
And that's why I like it. And I'm just waiting for them to do like the next bunch of stuff.
Cool. Yeah.
But that's why I like it because like I can't wear it. Like I'm not a sneaker guy. Like
Yeah.
sneakers just don't do it for me, man. Like
I'll destroy my sneakers. I'm not in any way, shape, or form like a collector of sneakers.
My feet drag, and I have big feet. Like I have like a double E size, like foot, like my feet are wide, and like all like cool Jordans don't come in that size, or like LeBrons don't come in that size. I'm just like, okay. So that's just not gonna happen. But watches, oh my god, I love watches, dude. Like awesome, they're awesome. But I digress. I could go on about watches. I could go on about other things too, like girls in bikinis. I could go on about that as well. All day. It's terrible. But I agree about the anime thing. It's here to stay.
Yeah, it's here to stay. I'm very happy though. It's here to stay. I'm happy we're like I said, we're in a new era of nerd. It's like the next layer of it. So, yeah.
It's funny because I was never shoved into a locker. But like people are like, yo, why are you into this shit? Like this is so weird.
I've always gotten the, oh, are you watching Japanese porn? When it's like just Naruto. I'm watching Naruto.
So it's interesting. So I don't know your politics.
Yeah.
But I've actually made an argument that anime has actually become more conservative. If you look at One Piece is very anarcho-capitalism and very libertarian. One Piece is not a liberal show. It by definition is not a liberal show. No. It is anti-government. That's what's crazy. One Piece looks like it's very liberal. One Piece is not a liberal show.
That's a good observation. Yeah, no. Now that I'm seeing it, I'm like, okay, I can see that.
So it doesn't mean now anti-government, anarcho-capitalism has nothing to do with social issues. One Piece on a social level is very, very liberal, right? You have a bunch of crazy shit in there that is out, very freedom-oriented, and you do you, right? That on a social level, that's One Piece, right? But on a it's very libertarian and very anarcho-capitalism and very anti-government. You have the main character, who's the hero, basically saying, I'm going to oppose the government and I want countries to be liberated, and Luffy doesn't take territory when he can. And he only takes territory. He's only taken territory twice in One Piece. Sorry to ruin it, everybody. It's not a big thing to ruin. Twice, and the only reason why is that those territories needed to be protected by his flag. That's how crazy One Piece is. It's extremely libertarian. It's not a liberal show, and Naruto, on the other hand, is very governmental. And then Pokemon, they give a 12-year-old an electric Pikachu. And they say, go have fun.
And his mom was just like, all right, go on your journey. Bye. Like, completely disregarding that he's like 12 years old. I'm like,
go stop a crime syndicate, will you? In the Pokemon games, you're like 12. You're given a Pokemon to train, no money. Yeah. Okay. And they're like,
she cooked him like a sandwich or something, or like some food for like the day.
You don't even have to worry about eating in the game. It's great. So you don't get anything in the game. You don't have to eat. And what's great about the games is they're like, here, pick your name, and here's a Charmander. Oh, by the way, Team Rocket is trying to kill you and beat you up, and they're like 21 and older, and you're 12, and go catch her some Pokemon, and I'm Officer Jenny, but I don't want to do my job. That's exactly the game. And then it gets better. It gets better because then you have to deal with the Johto entity. So then they send you in Gold, Silver, and Crystal. They send you to go deal with the problem in Johto. And then finally, you're a CIA agent and you're like 13 in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. And because now you're dealing with environmental terrorism. It's great. It's so great. This whole concept is amazing. They're basically telling, the demographic is like 12, 13, and 14-year-olds playing Pokemon, and you're that age in the game, and you're fighting environmental terrorism in Pokemon.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. It's awesome. I don't know. After that, after those games, I just stopped. I couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't do it. But it's great, and I love Pokemon. Don't get me wrong. But you in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, you are fighting environmental terrorism. That's exactly what you're doing. It's great. It's awesome. So anybody who ever says Pokemon is not about that, that's exactly what Pokemon's about.
Yeah.
But that's why anime is great. That's why all these games are great, because that's why we're probably all fucked up. That's exactly why.
It's okay. We're all a little fucked up. Yeah.
It's absolutely wonderful. But I digress on that. Obviously, there's a lot of other stuff that you got going on, and I didn't want to give you a chance to promote yourself.
Yeah.
So where people find you, bother you, back your campaign, check out what you're doing, your other work, because you got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Caponi Art. I also have a Sky Maiden Studios Instagram. I collaborate a lot with my Caponi Art page, so you could definitely see the Sky Maiden Studios. I'm also up on Facebook and currently live on Kickstarter. So we have 9 days left to back period number 3. There's a lot in store. Like issue 4 is like a huge brawl. And it's a lot of fun. I'm already penciling the pages. And then ultimately next year, our schedule, we're introducing a new title. And then also we're going to be launching the trade paperback for Purity. So your very own Purity trade paperback is on its way. So definitely stick around. It's a lot of fun. This book, again, if you love, this is my love letter to the 90s. So if you love all things 90s, if you love like bad girl comic genre, then Purity is for you.
And then I keep saying it, and I'm going to keep saying it again, is that obviously when people have books out there, whether they're funding it themselves or on Kickstarter, it's in their web store, it's, somewhere else, you should be reading it, backing it, checking it out. Preferably when they are on Kickstarter or other crowdfunding platforms, you should absolutely back it there. And then if you miss it and it's in their web store, you could pick it up there, or if they're at a convention, obviously you could pick it up there as well. And then obviously, but going even beyond that, you should be also following these people on social media, because following on X, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Blue Sky, YouTube, Facebook, wherever else, I'm sure there's a few others. It goes a long way, because a follow is so helpful sometimes. And it could mean just as much as backing somebody's project. And then since it's my show, I like to promote myself on my show all the time. And luckily, I have it down below, even though I haven't updated. So I am Pop Anime Comics on Twitter/X. It's Twitter/X to me, everybody. So that's Pop Anime Comics. And you could see me whining and bitching when I lose on basketball, or when I win and I troll people. Because I'm quite good at it. I have a good time. I have a good time. You should have seen me last night. I think it was last night. Or maybe it was Tuesday when Tyrese Halliburton took Cleveland's heart. It was masterful. I had no money on that game, and I turned it on and I watched it. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? For a good 20 minutes, I was shocked. Luckily, somebody in my house was dismayed, so we were shocked and dismayed. But I couldn't be both. And if you know where that joke's from, then you get extra brownie points. That's a 90s joke. Do you know where it's from?
I
That's
no.
a Boy Meets World joke.
Oh, I barely watched Boy Meets World. I was more of a Full House kid.
Corey says, Sean says, I'm shocked and dismayed. And Corey goes to Sean and says, you can't be both. I'll be shocked. You'll be dismayed. It's they storm off. It's great. Because it's true. You can't be both. I mean, but all jokes aside, obviously that is where I'm at on all those platforms is Pop Anime Comics. And then I do run an eBay store. So look for comics and collectibles. Come shop with us on eBay at Pop Anime Comics Collectibles. And I carry a lot of really cool stuff like this in my store. So I carry some cool stuff like that as cards. I carry some comics that look like this, some anime stuff, pretty cool right there. Some Mount Olympus right there. I also carry some baseball cards that look like this. And this is a better image of that where they put a base in the card from the game that's authenticated. And the best part is that the bases are dirty because they have people's cleats in them and like the dirt from the cleats. And then I carry a lot of WNBA stuff as well. So I do carry stuff like this. I carry stuff like this, which is a 101. I carry stuff like this, which is also that card, just in a lower variation of it. And then there's just some other stuff where I do carry some stuff like this every once in a while, which is original sketch cards. And then there's stuff like this right now, which is a 101 Evan Mobley. So again, defensive player of the year. So, and then I just brought in some Boston Celtics stuff. I brought in some Jalen Brunson stuff. I brought in Tyrese Halliburton today, and all this stuff is up there. So if you're looking for rare cards, cool cards, I got you covered. And if you are looking for something that is not in my store, feel free to ask me because it's one of three things. It's either I have it, I just haven't listed it. It's that it's not out yet or doesn't exist, or I don't have it and I am more than happy to direct you to somebody who does have it because I have a lot of friends who sell a lot of cards and I'm always happy to refer them business and help you get you what you want as a fan. So keep that in mind. That's everything that I got going on. Again, if you just type in Pop Anime Comics, you'll find me. I'm not that hard to find out there. And if you shoot me a message on Twitter X, Facebook, Instagram, under Pop Anime Comics, and you're looking for my eBay store, I'll just direct you right to that place, and I got you covered. So that's everything that I got going on. So on that note, I'm going to give you the final word.
All right. So period number 3 is live. Go check it out. Thank you, Andrew, for having me. And let's do this again soon.
Perfect. And I don't think I could have said that any better myself, buddy. And that is a wrap.
Bye, guys.